I stepped outside to grab a package, thinking I'd just find some Amazon box waiting for me. Maybe socks or that grill thermometer I'd ordered when I got hit with this sight so outlandish I thought I'd wandered onto the set of some fancy bridal magazine shoot. You know, the kind flawless everything like real life got airbrushed. My backyard, my own little patch of peace, with the koi pond I'd spent hours babying, and the shade from that old oak tree had been turned inside out, totally unrecognizable. There were tuxedoed guests laughing under these strings of fairy lights, a DJ posted up by my pergola spinning smooth jazz, and over the pond, a big floral arch was shedding petals that floated like confetti across the water. Center stage was this bride in a mile-long dress, tossing her bouquet so high it almost cleared the oak branches, and someone I'd never seen before was hollering at Uncle Pete to stop feeding champagne grapes to my turtles. For a second I froze, honestly. I wondered if I was dreaming or maybe losing my mind. But no, it was real. My place had been invaded, plain and simple. Then I spot Linda, our HOA president, clapping like a proud aunt by the buffet, looking right at home like she owned the place. That's when it clicked. Someone must have gotten my private gate code, and I'd bet every cent I had that Linda, with her usual smugness, was just handing it out left and right, not a care in the world. My confusion gave way to this pure, white-hot fury. There I was standing in my own backyard in jeans and an old t-shirt, feeling like I'd wandered into the world's fanciest tea party by mistake. Some groomsman sidled up, mistook me for staff, and asked if I was with catering. Yeah, that actually happened. I was too stunned to even be mad, so I just managed to mumble, "Buddy, do you know this is my backyard?" He just laughed and said Linda said it was all good. That was it for me. I made a beeline for Linda. She was decked out in this ridiculous, wide-brimmed hat, clutching her HOA clipboard like it was a scepter. She spun around, fake gasp and all, and before I could get a word in, she put a finger up. "Not now, dear. We're mid-ceremony, like I was the one crashing the party." She explained with all the warmth of a DMV clerk that her niece's wedding venue fell through, so she just offered up my yard pond, pergola lilies and all, without so much as a text. She called it a small gathering, which apparently means 100+ people, a full sound system, and porta potties killing my grass. My prized lilies. Now just a selfie backdrop. I whipped out my phone and called the cops. Linda just laughed. "You're calling the police on a bride like I was the crazy one." The officer showed up and Linda glided over to him with the confidence of a seasoned lawyer, spinning this wild story about how I'd verbally approved everything, and as HOA president, she could share the gate code whenever the community needed it. I was speechless. The officer, not wanting to be the guy who arrests a bride, just kind of shrugged and asked if there was any real damage. I showed him the garden irrigation line's trampled flat bent fence by my drone pad and the fish food dumped everywhere because some kid thought my filter was a wishing well. He shook his head, said he couldn't evict a wedding without proof of trespassing, and left me standing there, the world's least enthusiastic party host. Next morning, as if things couldn't get any worse, Linda hand-delivered an HOA citation accusing me of disrupting a permitted event by involving law enforcement. The way she twisted reality, you'd think I was the criminal here. That's when something inside me just snapped. I'd put up with Linda's nonsense for years, her mailbox inspections, passive-aggressive newsletters about lawn length, even the time she accused my nephew's science project of attracting raccoons. But this turning my yard into the local event space and fining me for it, numb. Game on. You want to play community? Fine, let's play. I called my cousin Eddie, who rides with a biker group called the Steel Talons. Don't get the wrong idea, they're loud, sure, and look intimidating with all the leather, but they're good people. Big on charity events, and BBQs always respectful. Their leader, Bear, a giant with a beard like a forest and hands the size of dinner plates, listened to my story, and without missing a beat said, "They threw a party in your yard without permission and you got blamed. That's criminal. We'll bring the grill." That was all I needed. I set up my own community event, repaired what I could, cleared space, rigged up speakers, and got a projector ready. Bear spread the word, a Sunday blowout, everyone's invited. Especially all the folks Linda usually scolded the family with too many lawn gnomes, the teens who skateboard by the fountain, the guy whose Christmas lights never come down. On the invite gate code, courtesy of Linda. I even made a sign in her handwriting, "Welcome gate open for approved gatherings." Petty maybe, but man, it felt good. The fallout from Linda's wedding lingered. She kept sending emails, one even suggested I rent my yard for future events. My wife, never missing a chance for sarcasm, asked if we should start charging people to cross the patio. Some neighbors, fooled by Linda's PR, actually thanked me for volunteering my yard, not noticing the confetti still stuck in my bushes. If I wanted my dignity back, I had to beat Linda at her own game, louder, friendlier, with way more barbecue. Party day rolled around. I power washed every inch, set out chairs around the fire pit, loaded coolers with enough food and drink for a small army, and hung a banner, Backyard Brotherhood Bash. Bear showed up on his Harley with the rest of the Talons behind him, parking in a neat row that made half the block peek out their windows. Some neighbors I'd barely talked to brought over lawn chairs and chips. A guy named Tom set up lawn darts and asked if he could join. Of course, the more the merrier. This wasn't just about me and Linda anymore. It was about shaking off her chokehold on the whole neighborhood. By mid-afternoon, smoke from the grill drifted down the street, music thumped from the speakers, and someone offered temporary tattoos by the shed. The dunk tank had a cardboard cutout of Linda with a target taped to her forehead, kids lined up to dunk her, and the laughter felt like a weight lifting off everyone. Old Mrs. Clara, who'd lived here longer than anyone, called out, "Best party this block's seen in years." Even the grumpiest neighbors showed up, sipping sweet tea and telling stories like the neighborhood had finally woken up. Linda didn't appear right away. She's the lurking type, always spying from behind a curtain. But sure enough, around 4:30, I spotted her beige visor peeking over the hedge. She stormed in, waving her clipboard, screaming, "What is this bear-flipping brisket in his license to grill apron?" Just grinned and said, "Glad you could make it." "Linda." She turned beet red, whirled on me and shrieked, "This is unauthorized." I held up her own email to the wedding planner, "Backyard approved code 5572. No need to ask owner," and let her read it in front of everyone. If my yard was good enough for her niece's wedding, it was good enough for the community too. Linda sputtered. The tattoo guy offered her a Linda Free Zone stamp, and the neighbors just grinned. The vice president of the HOA, Paul, was munching corn dogs by the dunk tank, totally unbothered. Linda tried to call the HOA emergency line, but it went straight to voicemail. Paul just waved. Her threats about noise ordinances fell flat. Her party had been louder, her guests had done more damage, and now nobody was buying what she was selling. We partied until dusk. Bear gave a speech about respect, and community got a standing ovation. Some teen wanted to learn about koi ponds. My wife looked at me like I'd just pulled off a bank heist and gotten away with it. I knew Linda would come back harder, try something else, but I'd won this round, and the Steel Talons said they'd always have my back. The gate code stayed the same just to rub it in. For the next week, neighbors waved, kids high-fived me, and someone even left a thank you card on my porch. But Linda wasn't finished. Now her clipboard became a weapon, citations accusing my grill and chairs of being unlicensed fixtures, Bear's bike of motorcycle storage, and even my brisket smoke for crossing property lines. My wife joked about logging every dinner for the record. The boldest move was a letter from Community Code Enforcement with a fancy QR code and official-looking logos demanding a surprise fire inspection. I called the number, and wouldn't you know it, Linda herself answered. I hung up and called the actual fire marshal, who was more than happy to look into her impersonation. At the next HOA meeting, I showed up early with a binder labeled Community Compliance Real Edition. Linda strutted in, arms full of papers, launching into a speech about my violations. Paul nodded at me to speak, so I stood up and read her fake enforcement email out loud. The room went silent. I handed Paul a copy, then told everyone the fire marshal was investigating. You could feel the tension break. Neighbors started unloading their own stories, citations for Halloween decorations, bird feeders, you name it. Paul just shook his head, and Linda stormed out, muttering about lawsuits. That night, for the first time in forever, my porch was clear of citations. Sun set over my yard, reclaimed and alive, neighbors unafraid for once. I knew Linda would be back, but now I had the whole neighborhood behind me, and I wasn't backing down. The fight wasn't over, not by a long shot, but the upper hand, that was finally definitely mine. So tell me, was I right to fight back the way I did? Or did I just make things worse for everyone? I'd love to hear what you think about justice, community, and what people like Linda really deserve. Drop your thoughts below. Let's get into it.